Welcome to another episode of me reviewing highlights. As always, I'll be placing chapter markers so that you can jump straight to the passage that you want to know about, and as well as links to the books in the description itself. So with that, let's get started with our highlights from today. So the first one is from Hidden Potential. It's possible to confront obstacles alone, yet we reach the greatest heights when we attach our bootstraps to other people's boots. If multiple credible supporters believe in us, it's probably time to believe them. If ignorant naysayers don't believe in us, it might be time to prove them wrong. And when our faith falters, it's worth remembering what we are fighting for. Right. So this is in a section which is kind of like a summary. It's like a summary to a section. This particular passage, and so that's why it's like a mix of thoughts over here. So the author is saying that it's possible to confront obstacles alone, but like that thing that if you want to go far, um, go together, something like that. So we reach greatest heights when we attach our bootstraps. Like the author has built up a metaphor by this point, has built up a metaphor with bootstrapping. Bootstrapping yourself up and that kind of thing. And the different things that you need to remember in this case is, if there are people who believe in you, credible people who believe in you, believe them. If there are naysayers, who don't believe in you and they don't know too much about the topic, then it's time to prove them wrong. So it's like, we have discussed a similar highlight, I think, maybe last week or the week before, where um, it depends on the person's expertise level. When they show confidence in us or not, uh, the effect they have on our motivation depends on what their own experience level is. So if they are not, so when the author says ignorant naysayers, they're referring to people who do not know about that particular topic, where you are endeavoring. So if they don't know too much about the topic and they're saying that no, you can't do it, then it's time to prove them wrong. And lastly, whenever faith falters, it's worth remembering what we're fighting for. So the reason, why we are doing this. There may be times when, uh, it seems like the entire world is against us, and that time it's at that time we need to remember why we are doing whatever we are doing. Moving on, remote not distant. On a good day, culture feels invisible. On a bad day, it's too obvious. No one notices a smooth performance, but toxic behaviors quickly catch the eye. So I think it's self-evident. There's not much I can add to it, and except to say that I think it's quite evident, right? It's one of those things that if you're doing well at it, nobody's going to notice. It's one of those things. There are many things like that. For example, um, I don't know. Let's say security. As long as you don't hear anything about it, like it means that they're doing a good job. It's kind of that thing, like no news is good news kind of thing. Anyway, moving on to thanks for the feedback. As we figure out how to as we figure out how to ever hear evaluation, it's helpful to break the evaluation itself down into three constituent parts: assessment, consequences, and judgment. Okay, so there are different kinds of feedback. Evaluation is one of them. The others are like uh, coaching and one more thing. I don't remember. Anyway, that's not the point here. So if the feedback is an evaluation for you, so like it's important to know, first of all, if you're when you're receiving a feedback, what is it? Is it a coaching conversation? Is it something that's designed for you to fix problems, move on? Is it an appreciation? Sometimes feedback is just appreciation, that, oh, that well done, that was a really good thing, that great thing that you did. That's the other type, by the way. And then there is evaluation, which is like a fact based assessment, that, okay, here's where you stand. So, in case of evaluation, it's you break it down into constituents part. That's assessment, consequences, and judgment. And what this helps us is, it helps us separate subjective things from facts. So, for example, assessment is a is a fact from the other person's point of view. They're telling their perspective over here, and you may not agree with it. That's true. As in, you may not agree with the reality of it, but you can't disagree that, okay, that the other person is feeling this. So like, that's assessment, right? And that's where and judgment, so judgment is where you apply the filter that okay, like the person may be feeling this, okay, like that this, whatever the feedback is about, it may really be that person's assessment, it may be a fact from that person's point of view, but the judgment is not, it's subjective. So yeah, it's like the whole book is about this. When you get feedback, how are you going to break it down into its constituent parts, like classify it and break it down so that you can deal with the feedback as you should. Actually, derive some use of it from it. Sorry. Moving on, the song of significance. Anything easy to measure is really important because our competition is better at maximizing the easy measurements than we are. So this is written in a very manifesto style, right? So like all the statements in the book are somewhat like this. The author is making a point that sometimes we get blindsided by, or sorry, we get completely held up on measurements that are very easy to do. We have been talking about metrics and multiple episodes, like and um, from 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 books like Measure What Matters, for example, many other books, in fact. It's a very common thing that metrics are hard, and if something is easy to measure, it's really important. And like the author is just pointing out that because our competition is better at maximizing the easy measurements than we are. So yeah, focus on the hard ones. That's the thing. And again, like I said, it's written in a manifesto style. So yeah, there's not much over here. There's not much in terms of, okay, this is what you do. It's more about this is what you should be doing, and the answers are elsewhere. Moving on to get it done. Another factor that increases the intrinsic motivation of an activity is the extent to which the activity and its associated goal appear similar. When the activity and goal appear to fit together, they're more closely connected in your mind. You're more intrinsically motivated to learn how to play the piano, play basketball, or speak Spanish if your goal is to grow as a person than if you want to feel more relaxed. Right. So the examples over here, I think the first part of the passage is pretty clear that the we find the intrinsic motivation to do something when the activity and the goal are together. They appear similar. So like for example, if you're motivated to learn how to play piano because you want to grow, you want to learn it for the sake of learning it. It's like the similar thing. That's the similar aspect over here. Because you want to grow, you want to learn new things, and you're learning how to play the piano because it's something that you really want to learn. So it aligns perfectly, the goal and the activity. So it's it's kind of like by definition an intrinsic motivation, right? But if the reason is something else, if you want to feel more relaxed, it's a little far off, because now there are many ways to feel relaxed. And again, like that's a whole different discussion about like achieving a goal that has many many ways to get to it, and like what how that affects your motivation, for example. So yeah, so I think I lost the thread of what I was saying. Yeah, so this is little far off, the goal and the activity. So the intrinsic motivation will not be that high over here. So that's what the author is talking about here. Moving on to thanks for the feedback again. When a boss comments that she'll need to be on her game at tomorrow's meeting, she wonders whose game her boss thinks she's been up to now. Does he think I don't know what I'm doing? Does he think I don't understand the importance of the meeting? Right, and this happens so many times. So sometimes we get feedback that is like so obvious, and it's um, it might be given from it might the person who gave the feedback, they might have the intent of maybe just kind of encouraging you on, or reminding not as much as like okay, you'll forget this, but more of I know you can do this. It's kind of like showing that confidence, and they say something like it. And but like in the way we receive it is okay, like why say this? Like don't they know that that we are also competent. And anyway, yeah, so it's like a funny note. And um, I think I resonate with the author. That's the reason I highlighted it. Moving on, The Way of the Shepherd. Okay, I'm kind of uh, I don't remember this book really. It must be a very old one. You need to discover the skills and interests. You need to know their goals and dreams, what motivates them when they walk through the door in the morning, what their career ambitions and frustrations are. In other words, Ted, you have to make a point of knowing what things are impacting them at the moment. Okay. Um, Sounds like yeah. I mean, like sounds like the management thing. I think I should just skip this because I can't really remember the book. Like I only have a very vague recollection, where like a person they're training to be like a CEO or like senior manager or something, and then they go to meet the existing CEO, current CEO in like some farm, and it's like a kind of like a fable kind of thing. But let's move on. Hidden potential. Just as it's unwise to seek rudimentary instruction from the most eminent experts, it's a mistake to rely on a single guide. No one else knows your exact journey, but if you collect directions from multiple guides, they can sometimes combine to reveal routes you didn't see. The more uncertain the path and the higher the peak, the greater the range of guides you'll need. Right? So, the first part, the first part of the sentence is referring to that fact. We have discussed this before, that sometimes the people who are experts, they don't make that great teachers often. It's, I mean, of course, I'm sure there are exceptions, but people who are experts, they are so deep into this area. That's the reason they're experts, that they've forgotten how they started off. And I like, I think I mirror that. So like that's the first part. And the author continues that, similarly, it's also a mistake to rely on a single guide, because again, not just one person knowing your entire landscape, as in your exact journey, your strengths, your weaknesses. That's not going to happen. Just one coach knowing all of these things. So the idea is that you work with multiple coaches, and then you combine the directions from all of them, and you judiciously apply that. Okay, yeah, based on my situation, this is what I need to do. So one coach, one mentor, given the complexity of your goal, may not be enough. That's the point here. Moving on. Clear thinking. In a quirk of psychology, people typically don't argue with your personal rules. They just accept them as a feature of who you are. People question decisions, but they respect rules. I think this is, funnily enough, this is something we see all the time. When you meet somebody that says that, like for example, I have a friend who avoids sugar in all cases, and I had cupcakes, I offered it to them, and they said like, no, I don't eat sugar, and that was completely fine by me, right? It's like, I understood that, okay, this person, he does not eat anything that has sugar in it. Fine, it's a rule. And there was no point, there was nothing like, okay, a second like, like kind of negotiation in this matter. It's a rule. And something like, avoiding sugar, it's like a very, very well understood thing in today's environment. So there's no space for an argument over here. It's a rule. Whereas if you're going to decide in every moment that this is something that you're going to do and not, so first of all, it's hard to do that, because with every decision you're kind of like applying that energy in making that decision. So every time, for example, if you're given a cupcake and you're deciding that, okay, should I eat this cupcake today or not? Okay, am I done or not done? And like, so what you're doing now is you're making a decision. So first of all, you're spending the energy in making that decision, right? So that's you're already at a disadvantage over there. And now, because it's a decision, there is a room for negotiation. So like, there'll be like there might be arguments like, yeah, it's okay, just have one more today, skip your one cupcake tomorrow, like skip your quota for sugar tomorrow, have it today instead. So there will always be kind of negotiation over here. But if it's a rule that, no, I don't have sugar, um, then that's the end of the discussion. So additional note over here, sometimes it feels that people who make up these kind of rules, they are viewed as snobs. I mean, at least that was what my fear. But I'm realizing more and more that that's not necessarily true. Yes, it may not always work in your favor, as in you may still be perceived as a snob by somebody, but I think largely people respect that. That if you are setting a rule for yourself, people respect that. Moving on to measure what matters. An engineering team might opt for a 6-week OKR cycles to stay in sync with development sprints. A monthly cycle could do the trick for an early stage company still finding its product market fit. The best OKR cadence is the one that fits the context and culture of your business. Okay, the author is just making a point that OKR durations don't have to be fixed. Like depending on the context, the culture, and even the activity, you can decide what duration you want for a specific OKR. Right? It could like be a team thing that okay, all our OKRs are 6 week long, or it could be the okay, this OKR is 6 week long, but the other one might be just might be like 2 months or a quarter long, for example. So yeah, the challenges are in tooling. For example, the tooling that you use may not allow these kind of things. Like for example, if you set the like if you configure the tools to uh, have only quarterly OKRs, then I think that's kind of a limitation of the tool. But the methodology itself has no such limitation. So I think that's it. We are at the end of our highlights, and I think again, like one of the good ones, like, except one book which I didn't even remember, Strange. But yeah, otherwise, I think it was a good episode again, and have a good day, everyone.